But over the past year, and I know you, when I was putting up question boxes about USAPL Ireland starting, you were like half joking, like, oh yeah, class, but like still lifting the RHPF.
Yeah.
Now that you've seen this year, like we're in, what's that, like 1/4 of the way through the year, thereabouts, we've seen the RHPF put on fantastic junior nationals, USAPL put on a great open in February. Do you think that now that this has started and we've two like branching tested pathways for lifters, do you think that we will actually see higher quality competitions off the back of that? For somebody that's been a veteran of the sport for a long time and as you just mentioned, lifted through IDFPA into the RHPF, has lifted internationally? And I know it's still only the very beginning, but do you think this is a good trend that we're seeing so far?
Yeah, like the standard's really good in terms of like the actual comp, like the atmosphere you're having and like the sort of theatre of it. But yeah, like definitely. I was always kind of winding Jay. I was like, oh, I'm going to be the world champion of America. And he hated that. But no, like definitely. I haven't actually been to the one that was there. I know there's one coming up shortly. Maybe even go down. I don't have anybody lifting at it. So it'd be good to kind of go down, just even be a spectator for a change versus always coaching or competing at it. But yeah, like every sort of competition where you have opens the doors to new people joining and like the right people are running it for it to be a fun competition, and kind of chat a bit like off air. Like the more we have like good quality lifters, the more competition there's going to be. So even if the IPF are slightly ahead maybe and like the ones that want to go to internationals, it doesn't mean that USAPL are poor lifting. Like there's some great lifting at that one that was there. I can't remember what Nisha told, but I remember something savage.
He's a scary young man, Nisha Walsh. Yeah, he's going to be definitely one to watch. He's actually planning to his next comp. He's signed up, I believe, for either the June or July RHPF Open. So either Kildare.
Oh yeah,
or
I think I've seen that. So
yeah. So there you go. Like I mean, and I think that's a good thing. Now he's gotten to, and if you saw any of his lifting at USAPL, it was a pretty submaximal day for him. You know, he was just straight chilling. So I think that's a great sign for what's to come for him, and very likely we'll see him representing Ireland in some capacity, either later this year or down the road. But I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. The more opportunities for people to get on the platform and lift, the better that is for everybody. And yes, you might initially obviously be able to say USAPL Ireland, the standards of the quality of top level lifters are able to present won't be as big because the majority of those people have grown and participated for a long time in the RHPF, yourself included. You know, like you're obviously one of the premier under 93 kilo lifters in the country. So that creates an opportunity for other people to make a bit of an impact or get eyes on them in USAPL, where right now it's not really top heavy with talent. There are some excellent lifters, but I actually joked because one of my lads, James McLaughlin, he competed. So the weight class are slightly different in USAPL.
It's under 90s, under 100 and stuff like that, isn't it?
Exactly. So he's competing under 90, and based off this couple of series of opens they've done, they're doing this Euro tour. So in the male open, James is currently ranked out of 10. He's ranked 10th on dots, and it's like 393. And he's like, I just got in by the skin of my teeth. I was like, man, fuck's sake. Like, I can't wait for there to be, because Mark Komisky's on the list. I'm sure you're well familiar with Mark. And I think Mark
Milan with him 2019, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
the Western Euros.
Yeah.
It was first time I met him. Yeah,
he's a good skin.
Yeah, he was nice to see him back.
Man, honest, straight up, like he was gone for a while, and then like suddenly just started showing up to training again. Now he's lifting again. He was sorting a few things out, getting his house and things like that. So he's back on the straight and narrow now. He's back doing bits, lifting, humbling all of us with his massive bench at a really light body weight. He that kind of story I think kind of applies to you. And I'm going to jump away from the story I was just telling about USAPL to bring something up about you. Do you remember coming into nationals last year? I remember a couple of people were asking, like, for my first nationals, where are you going to finish on the podium? I was like, I'm just happy to be lifting with the likes of Keane, Beck, and Matthew. And you had messaged saying, I'm actually not going to be lifting at it, so, you know, best of luck. I was gutted, man, like genuinely gutted, because fuck, man. You know, because you and Keane would be two lads that when I stepped into the RHPF, it's like I aspire to be as good as those types of lifters, you know. And we chatted a little bit at it because you were down for Jordan, your girlfriend, who was lifting at it as well. And at that time, you were like, "Yeah, I don't know, I might be done competing for a while." So what changed?
Stubborn. I don't know.
Well, what led to that decision initially?
Yeah, it was weird. Like, I think if I was like to pinpoint it, so I did a May Open maybe, Gainforth in June, and then shortly after Jordan had qualified for Junior Worlds, and went over, and it was kind of like the first sort of like imposter syndrome I had, like had, because I did Western Euros. I did one Open Euros at that point.
In Poland, I believe.
Yeah. And or even if it was before, no, sorry, it was in Lithuania. It was one that was before that. And I went to Turkey, and it's just like, why am like, I kind of felt like I'd never been in a gym before. Felt like I was like, well, these are like the strongest people in the world. They're made out of like marble. I was like, what am like, whose dad is this? You know what I mean? And like just kind of struggled with that for a bit. And like, don't know why. I never really considered myself like the strongest person in many rooms anyway. You know what I mean? Like whenever you're kind of associating yourself with the higher standard. And yeah, it just took a while to come back from. And then I went into Euros in Poland and just was kind of having like a rough sort of prep. And I think just like the mental side of, you know, how I was feeling was obviously impacting my performance. And like, if I looked back at old training videos, I'd probably look at it and I'd be like, yeah, it wasn't nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. But like, did Poland, didn't have the best day out. And I was just like, why am I sort of like, what am I doing? I've never won a nationals. But I've always kind of been up around the top end. And always kind of said to myself, like, you know what, if I ever get to the stage where I'm like, I don't think I could win a nationals on a good day or, you know, compete, I kind of hang up because it is fun for me, but it's like, I'm competitive. That was the reason I started powerlifting. Used to play rugby, and then my kid was born. I used to work on a Saturday. Rugby matches were on a Saturday. That was kind of where I found the competitive sort of itch. And I still took the invite for nationals, signed up, and I was like halfway through prep. I was like, I'm just not, the head's just not in it. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm under, you know, yourself, you're under like a heavy bar, especially with like a squat or something, bench isn't heavy enough to scare me. But if you're under a heavy squat and you're thinking, oh God, I can't do this, it's heavy, that's going to crush me, it's probably going to crush you, you know what I mean? I just don't think my head was in it. I think just kind of coming off that sort of imposter syndrome and like doubting myself and kind of nearly like identity crisis or thing. I was like, what? Like, if I'm not a powerlifter, what am I? And stuff like this. I was like, what's going on? And obviously, whenever, don't know if you find this, but like if you ever have a stage where you're doing your own training, you're competing and you're coaching, there's not really an escape to kind of get your head shared from it. Because if you're coming off competition, usually people go and relax, or if you're one of those ones that max out, I couldn't because my body's broken. Yeah, no, but you don't really have the time to decompress because you're dealing with your lifters. I think that just kind of came into it. It's just like I said, I just need time. At that stage, I was like, I'm done. And I was actually chatting to Adam in Poland, and he's like, I don't think you're done. He's like, if I thought you were, I would tell you. And he's like, as a friend, you know, I'm happy. I think if you're happy to stay away, I'm happy. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just at that stage, I was like, no. And then I kind of was doing a bit of like more focus on like hypertrophy. Obviously didn't work super well, but was just kind of doing like less specific stuff. And I was still doing like, high bar and close grip and like conventional, like just not my competition lifts. And I just mainly focused on like hypertrophy, and then, you know, slowly started getting heavier. I was like, oh no, I've kind of worked my way back into it. And I was like, you know what, I was like, if there's anybody counting you out, if there's anybody that could stop you, it's you. You know what I mean? It's never sort of stopped me before with anything else. So it's just like, you know, I was like, I did prove myself wrong more than anything else going on. So then I think I did the abs series, the Irish PF abs series right, one.
The Irish PF flight, abs 14.
Yeah, just to qualify for the Christmas class, because I knew that was kind of the place to stamp my ticket for potential internationals. And then did that, and then we're kind of back where we are.
We're so back.
We're so back.
Yeah, but like, so I remember you were coming into, initially I had actually signed up to do that abs.
That's right, yeah.
Irish PF flight, but then I got the invite to Western Euros. And I remember I was really excited because your name was on the list. I was like, fuck yes, Matthew's back. This is going to be good fun. Because there was no like a specific weight class or such. I know like they were going to
make weight, but there's no
So I was like, pressure. I'm going to come in fat as fuck and I'm going to go big here, you know? But then I got the invite, had to fucking diet off about 12 kilos. It was brutal.
Yeah, because I remember seeing your squats. I was like, this is getting exciting. This is getting spicy. And then, and then I was chatting to you and you were saying, like, no, I have to cut like my leg off to make weight here.
I've told that story a few times, but I was essentially, my original plan was I did nationals, and then I was like, right, I really want to hit an ab series. I'm going to jump back into wraps, and I'm going to try hitting 800 kilo total in wraps. Like coming in as heavy as like whatever weight I need
it
to.
is, yeah.
Yeah, like didn't want to be like fucking rolling onto the platform, but just like a really, really heavy version of myself. And then I remember they were a couple of the Irish PF lifters, including Alison O'Reilly, were down in Abs doing a bit of training. And I was outside chatting to her, just really, really like casual conversation. And she was like, what's your next meet? I was like, oh, yeah, I'll probably jump in and do that Ab series. I'll either do the Pro-Am or the Irish PF flight. She was like, oh, okay. What if potentially you were getting invited to Western Euros? I was like, what now? Because I had been like full send in the bulk. And I was like, yeah, when would I know that by? And she's like, it's not guaranteed. It's just, your names come up. So just keep that in mind. That could be a thing. But I probably didn't hear anything for another like 3 or 4 weeks, under a month. Like, and the whole time, like, I actually remember I got the email when I was sitting I think I was in Lisbon. I was on holidays. And I was like,
puts the burger down.
Straight up. I was like, right, well, I'll get through this holiday and see where I am. And the first day I came back, I weighed in at 102.1. Wow. And I had like I think just over 8 weeks. And I got onto Shane's story and I was like, help me. Please, for the love of God, help me. And now in fairness, we made it, but we made it a bit too good because when I weighed in at Western,
you were nearly under, weren't you? Or like
I was 90.8. Yeah, so a lot of weight.
Free.
I came in very, very light, but yeah, that really, really affected my performance because you're right in that prep when I was just training through the summer. On my day 1 squats, on my secondary squats, I was squatting 240 for 4 against bands, and I was like, this is easy. Like, I feel really fucking good now. And then the cut just killed me. I'm still reeling from it a little bit, but I will say then I was in the back at that flight at the Irish PF Pro-Am at Abs 14. I was handling one of my lifters, Shauna Rahman, and you were being handled by Conor Campbell, I believe.
Yeah. And
I remember it was actually just so good. And you're actually like very chill, cool, calm, and collected in the warm-up room. It was pretty cool to see. And that, as you mentioned, that got you your invite to Christmas qualifier, and that was yourself, myself, and Beck, and a few other lads. But like, let's be honest, it was you, me, and Beck, right? And we were having a bit of fun with it coming in. Do you know I put up a story in the lead up to that somebody reported for violence? So I think you had shared something, and I said I had put under it saying, doesn't matter who outlifts who, I'll still lump the 2 years around.
Oh, yeah,
like, yeah. Somebody reported it, and I got like a strike on my Instagram account. But that was like, obviously, look, everyone goes in to try and win, but it was actually really, really cool to see you go in and have such a good day. I'd imagine like you look fondly back at that competition. I think that was class.
Yeah, it was kind of return to form. Still wasn't like a PB total, but it was kind of just like a return to form. Training was actually going really well coming into that abs comp. I think it was like 275 triple and squat. I was like, oh yes, this is going to be good. And then the week after, I was kind of warming up. My left hamstring felt like kind of like a bit funny. I was like going into singles in. I missed the 280 singles. I was like, okay, this is not going to be good. Got on to TJ and was able to get back up to, I think squat 290 or something maybe. So it was like well under my total. I was just kind of happy to do what I could. And then I think a total was 767 or 765 or something maybe.
You beat
something
Beck
like
by about 5 kilos.
Yeah, something like that. But like I missed my third squat and I think I went 8 for 9 apart from that. And PB bench, PB deadlift, and like, was kind of happy just be back to where I was. I still wasn't quite sure, like, because it was the first time, maybe the last time Christmas qualifier was a thing because of the international calendar change. I was like, I don't know if this stamps my ticket or whatever, because the B standard at the time, don't know if it still exists, but was 775 and my best total was 772. So I was like, oh, needed that first squat. So like once it came, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna try and win. I don't really care. Apart from that, I'm just gonna try and PB, whatever. At bench was actually the highlight of that comp, which was identity. Speaking of identity crisis, but yeah, no, it was really good comp, and it was kind of like a second nationals. Didn't get nationals in February, but same venue, same sort of vibe. So
I would, from lifting at both, I think the setup for Christmas qualifier was significantly better.
Jordan said that she wasn't lifting, but she's like, she competed at the nationals and then obviously being there for Christmas.
The lads from Phenom Gym in Cork have kind of so as Jay has kind of stepped away from the Irish PF, those boys have stepped in to kind of fill that creative side, and you can really see it in the setup. It's very, very different, and I would say a massive net positive, and it means that the Irish PF and say like the Ab Series look very different now. Whereas before, you know, the only thing that I would know a difference between an Ab Series comp and an Irish PF comp is what banner was in the back.
Fire breathers.
Yeah, well, that's different. Yeah. But you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool that they're kind of finding their own identity with it, and they're putting a lot of production into it. Like again, like we talked about at the start, anything that's a net positive for the athletes and the lifters. In any case, off the back of that, yourself and Cian Madden went across to Euros in March to represent Ireland as under 93s. Talk me through a little bit of that experience.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, it's always nice to get the Irish single back on. And like prep for it wasn't amazing. It wasn't the worst prep ever, but it wasn't the best prep. It was kind of coming in as like positive mindset, you know, taper might save me, might surprise myself on the day, but just I was kind of going in with no real expectations. So just kind of, you know, B plan, try and stay where I was nominated at, not get like knocked out in the pecking order. But no, really, really nice to get back on the singlet again. And then, you know, like after the competition, you know, previously where maybe would have had like a lower total or something, or like maybe a bad day out or whatever, would have kind of been really harsh on myself. You know, what the hell's like, what am I putting all this effort in, all the hours in the gym, all the count macros I said, all the rest of it. Whereas this one was like, I just can't wait to. It's like I know I'm better than what I did. Yeah. And instead of kind of being harsh on myself, it's like I can't wait for the chance to do it again. Yeah. And yeah, like Cian had a really good day out. I think he missed his third squat and his third deadlift, but like still really for a not 9 for 9 day, still a really strong performance. Yeah. I think we're both doing worlds now. I think we're kind of chatted. I think it said I think he had chatted about potentially not doing worlds this time for maybe more of an off season, but I think he's doing it now. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, we have is a nominations list.
Yeah, yeah. He's in the group chat for the open team, so I'm assuming unless anything changes. Yeah, be my first worlds. It's always kind of been like a bucket list sort of goal.
That's a huge achievement.
Yeah, so like it'll be 10 years in May. End of May, be 10 years first comp, and there was no Irish PF. There was no sort of aspirations of a world ticket or Euro ticket, but like once it kind of got going, and once Irish PF kind of got formed and kind of seen that easier pathway, that became a goal then. Didn't know if I was ever going to hit it, and it took a minute. But yeah, it'd be nice to tick it off the bucket list. Yeah, sound.
So like as you say, 10 years in powerlifting in May, you've seen the sport completely change over the course of that time in Ireland. It's become very prominent, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 years, with so many new athletes coming in. But I think that speaks to like I would look to you and Cian as like, all right, that's the upper end of like the under 93 kilos here in Ireland. Like that's something, so that total is achievable at this body weight. These lads are like, as we talked about, like first man in Ireland to squat 300 kilos in the Irish PF. So, you know, that end of heavy squats is achievable to somebody at this body weight. We know that that's achievable. Matthew's done. He's probably going to go on and do more and keep fucking pushing that needle way further. So keeping the distance between the rest of us. But it just shows that to get to that level in some cases can take a long time. It's 10 years. That's a long time to put into a sport. And I think a lot of the time it's this case, it's whether it's becoming a very talented or seasoned athlete or whether it's like a business. People think it's like it's an overnight success when really it just got on their radar when you got good. Like I remember when I was coming into the Irish PF initially, that you, Cian and Beck were the 3 lads that were like very prominent from the time I was like looking at competing there. And then I've mentioned on previous podcasts, like my initial man crush in Irish powerlifting was Arthur Lynch. So like that was like to me, like these are the under 93 guys. That was the guy then. These are the guys now. And it's cool to see, like as you mentioned, by the time we were doing Christmas qualifier, that's like what, 9.5 years in powerlifting and still got a bench PB. That's pretty sick. You know what I mean? That's a nice direction to be trending in. So I think it really stands to that idea that this thing takes a long time to get to that top level. And you're coming into your first open worlds, which is crazy to think. You know, you're going to be on the big stage now. And look, maybe the stars will align and that will be the best competition, the best Matthew Henry we've seen to date.
Maybe, never know.
Yeah, I'll be watching anyway.
Yeah, well, I'll have to be watching. Have to wake me up for that one. But yeah, no, it's crazy. Like Arthur Lynch and like Barry Piggott and like I would never say that I'm the top end of the sport or whatever. And like I don't think I think you might be the only one. But like I remember coming up and was like Barry Piggott, Arthur Lynch, Sean Ryan, you know, all these heavy hitters. And you know, like I would never say that I'm genetically gifted. I would never say that, you know, I was even sort of have like genetic predispositions to be strong. I remember having strong legs for rugby, but that was about it. I was a wee fat lad growing up, and then a wee skinny lad. But it's just kind of sticking to the game plan.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times, like of younger lifters, it's usually they'll come and they're like, "Do you think I could ever make the Irish team?" And I was like, it depends how long you stick around. I was like, I don't know. I was like, unless you are an outlier, like Listus or Jordan or, you know, all the juniors coming up now, like Cal and Dwan, you know, if whoever sticks around longer. There's been so many, like I used to have, like my sort of idea of progression was like, I was obviously trying to beat my best totals and PB every lift as I go along, but I'd have like a list of people and I'd be like, right, you're in the next total up, you're the next in the sites, would go past them and then just slowly like, scratch them off. A lot of them aren't even competing anymore, you know. And Barry Piggott isn't competing anymore, but he's still on the list. But I don't know. I think he's got a like, special case. But it's just like I put up a Q&A a while back, but like somebody asked like, what do you? I think it was something along those lines. Do you think you have good genetics for strength or whatever? And like my answer was like, I think people underestimate underestimate the potential of like sticking to something long term and like throwing the kitchen sink at it. You know what I mean? Because 10 years is a third of my life. You know what I mean? Like I was just kind of like whenever I was kind of going through the identity crisis stage last year, I was like, well, what am I doing? You know, it's a long period of your life, and you know, a lot of my personal friends, like close personal friends, best friends are from powerlifting. I have a girlfriend through powerlifting. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different aspects of my life that would be, I don't know how much, like how different if I hadn't started lifting those heavy circles.
100. And man, do you know what? I do think there's that idea. There's a big conflation with like, oh, this person is just genetically gifted and that's why they're as good as they are. And, you know, maybe people will look at Matthew Henry squatting, you know, 275 for reps and go, it's just genetics. When really, like, as we've just heard, it's been 10 years of a lot of work, a lot of reps put into the gym. And like that, some competitions go fantastically. Some of them, it's back to the drawing board. And we alluded to it. We were chatting a little bit before the podcast and we're talking about like international team selection. And I think that's one thing when you get to that stage, it's that like those competitions are so different to domestic competitions. The people there are completely different. The warm-up rooms are completely different. I was going to say the atmosphere is completely different. There's fucking no atmosphere. You know, the only time you ever hear people is when the Irish lifters are out, you know, the team
or
cheering
the
for
French.
each other. Or the French. What was it recently? Somebody was saying I was talking to Shane Story and he was saying when he's in the gyms in Spain, that it's just a lot of vamos, you know. So you'll get a little bit of that, but I think, like that was definitely and I've like significantly less international experience than yourself. But even from my one exposure to Western Euros, like I think we were very lucky that we had a really good crew, and because Westerns is a little bit of a lower stakes international meet, we had a really big team. So it meant that, you know, there was a good few people there when you were lifting. You could hear them. It was nice. But what was really jarring was the moment you walked onto the platform, the music just stopped. I was like, this is shit. But it was so surreal, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like real life. And I think you kind of build it up in your head to it's going to be this is like the pinnacle of the sport. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be banners, party poppers, whatever. And I did Western Euros as well. It was actually sort of lower stakes then than it was like it is now. There's no Irish singlets or anything like that. And I was kind of like in my head, like this is the next step to the bucket list or like the checklist of Euros and then Worlds. And there's a good few, like Mark Comiskey, Anthony McLagan, Scott Dean, Andrew Mickelstrom. I can never pronounce his surname, I'm sorry. But there's a good crew of us and there's girls there as well. But went from that to next international was Open Euros, and I was B flight, and it was first thing. Stephen Cusack and Shannon Pollock handling me, and I was just delighted to be there. You know, and like the kids like in a toy shop, and they're just like they're not getting anything, but they're just happy to look at the things. I was like, woo. I remember like coming out for squats, and there was the 3 refs and 2 people in the stands, and I was like, this is weird. Like this is weird. I could hear like the Irish coaches, but like apart from that, like. Could hear myself breathing, could hear my knee crunching in the bottom, like I could hear everything. But yeah, it's definitely no atmosphere in comparison to what we're used to back home. Yeah,
I think, and that's a way, like we were talking about at the beginning with the quality of the meats getting better and better and better, and there being more options. That's another thing that's like really like slept on. It's a lot of the meets domestically, particularly bigger meets, national level meets. We were just talking about junior nationals in the Marina Market in Cork. That's probably one of the best competitions I've ever been to, barring none. And I don't know if the lifters there, like one of my girls just today found out she got selected and she's delighted. But one of the things we're probably going to be talking, just so you know, like this is probably going to be a little bit of a step down in terms of like atmosphere and the crack and the ambience. Like you're just going to
value.
Exactly. You're just going to be another lifter on a rotation of attempts. And like we're still going to go out and try and absolutely smoke it. But you know, it's not going to be what the Marina market was, because the Irish PF put an awful lot of effort into all of the competitions. And, you know, I think that just really stands to how good powerlifting has gotten here in the past couple of years. So you've talked about it a little bit. You know, you've got a pretty full plate with powerlifting, a social life in powerlifting, a girlfriend in powerlifting. You coach powerlifting and you compete. And that can leave things pretty full. But that's kind of one aspect of it I think maybe people don't realize as much, that when you are so immersed in it from an athlete standpoint and from a coaching standpoint, these are the things you're looking at, you know, like how big is a warm-up room? You know, how easy accessible are the likes of food, water, even how many toilets are there? Is there hot water in the toilets? You know, these are hot water in the toilets, hot water in the taps.
Fancy toilet you've got there.
But I think, that's one thing I think we're getting very good at domestically, is presenting the top level meets at a really, really high level. So for you then, many people may not realize Matthew is one of the top coaches up north. Max Out Powerlifting.
Yeah, boy.
That's your brand, yeah. So what do you think, being at the level of athlete that you are within the Irish PF, do you think that helps inform some of your coaching then as well, because you've kind of walked the walk as well as talking the talk?
Yeah, like definitely experience is going to, like, as you know, like experience of anything is going to, you know, benefit you in whatever line of work you're doing. But like I wouldn't say, sort of that conversation, like I think the two Andrews talked about, is like if somebody's a really good lifter, they can't be a really good coach. They're not that I'm a really good lifter, but you know, it's not it's not like you could be really strong and not have a clue about programming. But like I feel like having walked the walk in a sense, you know the usual thing, you know what the lifter's going to be thinking, and like you'll know this as well, like what lifter's going to be thinking if they've missed a lift. Are they gone? Is their head away? Like how are you going to get them back? And making sure, like, powerlifters, they disappear, don't eat or drink, and you're like, right, you need to eat this, drink this, you know, and like just kind of like, I think I suppose like even just putting yourself in their shoes, like what would you want? And like you know, like having like the sort of standard stuff, like making sure you're warmed up on time, but also like asking them ahead of time if they're a newer lifter to you, what do you want on the day? Or you know, I remember it's the first time I'd actually seen it done in like a more formal sense, but it was for Junior Worlds, it was for Jordan, it was Adam, I think it sent it out, Adam Phillips. Sent out like a sheet, because obviously they're not all his lifters or any of the coaches, so it's like, what do you like, hype, do you whatever. I never really thought about it, I suppose. I never had done international coaching, but it's that sort of thing, like you'll know yourself. I remember a comp up north, and one of the guys is like super chill. Like, you don't know what he listens to in his headphones, but he's super chill. You just take his headphones off, bars with it, away you go. And you'll tell him all the things he has to know. And he was actually next up after him. He's like eating smelling salts, trying to get up his nose, and you're slapping the life out of him because that's where he needs to be. And just kind of knowing what it is. But I feel like definitely as I've been coaching, I think it's like 7, 8 years now, 7 years maybe. One of the biggest changes or things I've learned is like not everybody thinks like you, and not even just on the competition day, but like if you told me to like start eating this desk and I get 20 kilos in my total, you'd have no desk and we're sitting playing toesies so everybody see. But some people it's not that serious. They just want to go out and have, like, I want to have a good time too, but like I could have, if I have the worst day, if I'm totaling 70 kilos below and I shouldn't have, you know, it doesn't matter how much fun I'm having, I'm not going to be having fun, you know what I mean? Whereas other people, they just like going out having a bit of crack or whatever. As sort of knowing that not everybody takes it as serious, and it's not that's a bad thing, but it's just like, you know, some people do it more recreationally, and it's amateur sport at the end of the day. Whereas, you know, I have kind of like the competitive side, and I have lifters that are sort of similar mindset to me, where it's like, yeah, I want to maximize what I'm doing. But yeah, I think that's the main sort of differences or things I've taken away from being an athlete and a coach. I was just kind of knowing when to separate that as well, because like sometimes I'll train in the same gym as some of my lifters, and obviously you want to give them the best sort of coaching experience you can, but you're also an athlete, so you have to kind of find the balance. And you like, I've had conversations once where like, look, if I'm about to do a heavy deadlift or heavy squat or whatever it is, don't really care about benching, chat to me while I'm benching, but you know, I'm in the zone for this moment. It's like, I know I'm your coach and I know that I'm here in front of you, but I'm not coach right now. I'm lift the same way you wouldn't want me chatting to you, but you're lifting while you're about to go for a heavy set. It all just comes with experience, even the likes of those sort of relationships and like knowing what way to say things so people aren't getting or taking it up the wrong way, because like, you know, I want them to do as best as they can, but I also have that sort of selfish side where it's like, I also have my own goals, I also have my own training to get done. But there's never been any sort of issues with it. It's, you know,
it's a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah.
You know, you're because you are trying to be the best athlete you can, but you also have to put that through the filter of these people are relying on me. And that's a massive degree of trust. You know, it's one of those things that like that. Yeah, it is. And I've been in the, I'll actually give you an exact example. Last Thursday, it was deadlifting, hitting my top sets of 3, got to my 3rd rep. Everything was sailing up. And just as I broke the floor in the 3rd rep, little in the lower back, I was like, fuck. I'm fine. Yeah. Put the bar down. But I was like, you know, when you're like walking around kind of gingerly, like, okay, just going to see what happens here now for a minute when the pain kind of subsides. And one of my lads is like just looking at me like, can you wrap my knees now? And I was like, that was like his last heavy squat, but he's competing this weekend. I was like, so I'm like, yeah, just give me 1 minute. You know? Yeah. Like I got that like bubble of rage, like get the fuck away from me before I kill you. But you know, it is that thing. You have to know when to manage. Like, okay, like yes, this is what I'm going through right now. But right now, am I wearing the athlete hat or the coach hat? And I have had that before when incidentally in the prep for Western Euros, because I had to cut weight. I was in a fucking fouler all the time when I came to training because I was fucking tired and I was sore. And fucking Shane Story had me doing like 15,000 steps a day. And I was coming in to train. I was always purposely coming like an hour after everybody else, so they'd be mostly trigger session. But they'd know when I'd come in, they'd all turn around and be smiling. And I just, we like not making eye contact, like, okay, don't go near him. Of course, one fucker, how's it going, Ian? How's the prep going? I'd be like, yeah, good, brilliant. Good, yeah. Get the fuck away from me, you know? But it happens. And it is kind of that balancing act. But I think you nailed it there in that the sport doesn't mean the same thing to everybody else. You're a highly competitive athlete and it means a lot to you. The effort you put in, you're trying to demonstrate that best on the day. So yeah, like that, you're going to be competitive. So maybe not getting what you want the other day, no matter how much fun you're having, is a net negative for you. Whereas other people, as you said, are just in it for the fun. Like I know for myself, like missing attempts on a day doesn't really bother me. Like I had an ab series, I think I went like 5 for 9 or 6 for 9. And I remember like 3 people, Jay Farrant, ironically, and Jake Brennan tried to come up and reassure me. Like, it's all right, don't worry about it, you're going to be grand. I was like, I don't care. Like, it's shit happens, like. But for, like, I've also had lifters break down crying when they miss a 3rd attempt. And I'm like, this is fucking cringe, relax, like, it's a fucking lift. But part of maturing as a coach and an athlete and as a person, I guess, is just understanding that it means different things to different people, and you have to try and empathize with that if you're their coach. And I like that, like, you know, you've learned that as well. So for you, it's very, very important. For some people, they're kind of accepting this. I might never be that guy. I'm going to lift regionally forever, and I'm going to be happy with that because I'm doing my thing. Yeah,
but even that, like, even like competitive lifters as well, they're like, I think if I like punched Damien now, he'd just be like, what you do? Like, he's so chill, he's such a nice chill guy, and obviously he has that sort of like hype to him, but like I'm sniffing smelling sauce, I'm heavy music in my ears, and he's just chill. And like Jordan, she's chill, you know what I mean? Like if I get a program, I know what I'm doing before I get to the gym. I know what my back offs are, visualizing the session. And she'll like, I was like, oh, what do you have to, even though I'm doing a program, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. I was like, oh, what exactly do you have today? She's like, oh, I'll check now. I'm like, what do you mean you're checking now? It's like, if you don't visualize, you know what I mean? But it's just people are different, you know? It's just kind of like accepting that, and like not even accepting that because it's not that deep, but it's just like people are wired differently, you know?
You got to handle Jordan a little bit recently at Euros, didn't you?
Yeah.
That must have been a cool experience.
Yeah, so it was nice. So
she had a great day as well.
Yeah. PB total, PB bench, PB deadlift, and sumo debut. Yeah, so it handled her like not handled her, but like was in the back room, warm room for Turkey, and like Jay and Louis. We're out there with Lotta and Connor as well. So I was kind of saying to like help him with warm up stuff like that, and then I think it was Louis in the tunnel with Jordan. But it was like helping call numbers. But obviously Jay was head coach at the time, so he got to call the shots. Yeah. And then for like pulling, couldn't go out the back. It was Adam Phillips handler, so great day, great coach in there as well. But yeah, like was chatting to Jack as well. So it's one of those things like, you know, the coaching staff for the coaching staff, you know, if I can help, obviously, obviously Jordan's girlfriend, but like if you were my lifter, I want to be handling you. And it was Jack and Dav, and they kind of let me like have the reins. But obviously discussing with Jack as well because he was head coach for it. But yeah, no, it was really, really nice day. And it was kind of nice having the sort of shared experience as well.
Yeah.
It was nice as well because last year as we did, I think she was on like the Monday, and I was on like the Friday or Saturday. So I was trying to make weight and kind of overshot. Like I think I was eating sushi the night before to try and keep my weight up, whereas I was the day before this time, so it's nice. And
yeah,
it wasn't stuffing my face in front of her. I didn't really have to cut weight anyway, but it was, you know, you just kind of relax then. And once she was done, holiday time.
Yeah, nice,
for a couple of days.
You got a couple of days to get her there anyway. Yeah, it's that's like a cool, unique thing that, like, you know, you've got a couple that are both really high standard powerlifters going international together. And I've always kind of wondered what it must be like to like have your significant other there with you. It must be a great experience.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I don't know, it's like strange, but it's like, you know, beforehand I was always kind of like, this is my thing, this is what I do, and like we train together 80-90% of the time, just depending on her shifts. But it's hard as well, like in training, because like if you go and like you're both like 2 weeks out or something, your body's sore, you can't like go out for dinner or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The normal sort of stuff you kind of take for granted, and then like once you're like, once we get this done, we can kind of let the seals down a bit. That's also a thing as well, like she had like a back injury before, so like that's why she's pulling sumo now, because we had trialed it before. We didn't really have enough, like the international calendars we spoke about, not the most forgiving for like an off season, so, and sumo's very technical, so we didn't really have enough time to get it to the like efficiency level where it was comfortable that, you know, she could not even PB or deadlift, but be close enough to her conventional. But she's no pain now, so it's nice, like not seeing your girlfriend in pain, like having to, you're talking about wearing hats, like when his boyfriend had, coach had, you know, and like you're seeing somebody in pain, you're like, right, you have to be subjective, like what can they tolerate? But it's also like somebody you care about, and you're like, oh, I just do powerlifting, you know what I mean?
Well, it's also for you as well. You're obviously trying to think practically, but there's also an emotional element, and you have to know, does the person you're talking to know which version of you is talking to them right now? We're making you sound mad schizophrenic here, but you know what I'm getting at. Like, you know, you're talking as their coach and somebody who's looking at their like practically, here's what's going to benefit your powerlifting career while you're experiencing this pain. But then, are they receiving that as the athlete or as your little girlfriend?
It's usually quite good though. Six are quite well, but it's like it's that thing like somebody else maybe said to me. Like I remember I think it was Open Nationals, that one start of the year, like I think it was like a taper. It was like 120 or something for singles, maybe slightly heavier for deadlifts, which is nothing realistically. But like she was in tears crying, and like she was going to the bathroom just kind of take a minute for herself or whatever. And like in the room in the gym, I was like, these people probably think I'm like a gun to her back, like you need to fucking lift this weight, you know what I mean? Whereas like I realistically was like, I couldn't care less. I was like, she never like if she wanted to go and do swimming, like tear away, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's not too bad. Like if we ever kind of cross the line where like, oh, this, I don't know if you're talking to me as coach or whatever, and then we just like, well, this is what it is, and we're like, okay, and then it's settled. You know what
now
I mean?
I have a funny question for you about Jordan, right? Junior Nationals 2022.
Oh god. Okay.
City Gym Limerick.
Oh yes, this one.
We were spotting and loading.
That's right. I was platform manager, and I was like, yes, I know what a platform manager is.
True or not true that you travelled all the way to Limerick just because you fancied Jordan a little bit?
Wee bit. I was trying to think of an excuse because I was like, I don't want to drive. Like we were just kind of seeing each other. I was like, I don't want to drive the full way down. Because like if it was Belfast or even Dublin, I kind of like, oh, well, I just want to see the competition. But I actually lied because it was Jer's birthday. And I said, oh, Jer told me to come down and see her. And she didn't have a clue what a jerky Lee's was back then.
Yeah.
She probably misses those days. I was like, yeah, I'm going down. It's like, I'll just spot and load out whenever I'm there. And I was like a week or so after, I was like, oh yeah, Jer wasn't even there. You know what I mean? But yeah, just giving back to the sport. I'm just volunteering. Yeah.
I actually did go down just to spot and load.
Closer to you. I have to climb the wall off the north to get to it.
No, because she posted that a while back, and I was like, "That's gas." I'm gonna bring that up with this fucker because I'm delighted I remembered that now. But look, let's pivot back around to some of your powerlifting career, right? So I do want to get some of the timeline, but I also more specifically want to ask about, you know, when we were coming into Christmas qualifier, right? Did you think there was a chance? Look, I'm going to take myself out of the equation. Did you think you were going to get that kind of run out of Beck?
No, not like, to be honest. Like I knew Beck was good. Like I remember, like I think it was you may start chatting maybe with him. I don't know who it was. I like obviously replied, but always kind of knew. Like I was like, if I miss a lift here or there, like if I miss 2 lifts, it's toast. You know what I mean? Like the kind of way it would be with any sort of like higher caliber meet.
Yeah.
I didn't think it'd be as close as it was, but I also wasn't anticipating missing my third squat. So like I think he's doing May. He was chatting to me recently.
He is, yeah.
I think he'll probably have told me there, to be honest. Like I'm not like if he did, I wouldn't be like, oh my god. You know what I mean? I would kind of expecting it, but I was like, I'm not really bothered. It's just an hour meet, but it definitely was closer than I would have liked. But also at the time, like whenever I was coming in, I wasn't like, no offense to you, it was like obviously nice sharing the platform, but I was like, I couldn't give a shit who was there. I was like, I was there to get 775. Anything less is or anything more is a bonus. Anything less is plan B. And as I say, like after I missed my first squad, I was like, yeah, we're going plan B then. We'll just try and win and then go from there. But no, I think I can't remember his third deadlift. I think it was like 317, 320, something like that.
I think he went 317.5.
Yeah, I think he would have needed I think he like got the miles wrong or something. He got his miles wrong.
So we had a chat in the back, right? Because by that, 2 of my boys were helping handle him, just loading his bar from and things like that. And the chat was, you need to load 322.5, and he would have matched you on total. But he technically would have won on body weight then, right? But he was like 317.
Okay, fair.
That's just what he wanted because he wanted to lock in the tree. There was something about that number he really wanted. You know?
318, 700 pounds. But people usually go for the 317 for that's close enough. Yeah, it's like 699 point whatever. You know what I mean?
So I think he was happy with that. You know, just because since like. Between like nationals and westerns, Beck and I were chatting a lot. Then when we were at westerns, I was just like third wheeling him and his girlfriend so hard the whole week. So
best week was life.
Man, we had a blast. Like there's like loads of pictures, like picking up stones and training towards gym and all that. Like
it's Iceland,
we had an absolute ball. Like you know, so. We became really good mates after that, and then he stayed with me one night over, like after Christmas qualifier. We went for burgers and all after. It was real good. But so he's a good friend of mine now, and like that, we've talked about it. It's like, you know, if you just had a fucking load of this, and he's like, yep, but I got what I wanted out of it. That's what I wanted. That was like a stepping stone for me, and I'm actually really excited to see what he does now in May. I won't be up at that one, unfortunately, but I'm really excited to see what he puts up because I think like that. I think coming into nationals last year, and I'll say this very candidly, like. I think I was lucky to get third place on that podium, and the only reason I did is because you weren't there, right? In my opinion. And we even coming into that meet, they did a preview podcast, and they'd kind of said, you know, and afterwards Connor and Adam did, and people don't like when Connor Campbell's really honest, but I appreciated him. He's like, seems like under 93s has kind of fallen off a little bit in the past couple of years. It used to be one of the premier kind of weight classes. Now it kind of seems to be, it's like 105s tends to be where a lot of the big lads are. But like I was saying to you beforehand, I looked at the provisional list for nationals this year, and everyone has over 700 kilo total, which was not the case last year.
Yeah.
Like I think the qualifying total last year was like 637.
For nationals?
Yeah, last year, like that was the minimum qualifying total, which was very low. And this year it's 682.5, I think. So much, much higher standard. And everyone in the top 7's over 700 kilos, which is phenomenal to see. And I'm really, really happy. Like I would much rather come last in a really competitive flight
than third and the less competitive.
Yeah, like just get on the, like, and I kind of, and again, I don't mean any offense to the other lads that were in the flight with us at the Christmas qualifier, but it was essentially always going to be you, me and Beck, you know? Yeah. Just with the nature of how it broke down.
This is the way sport is. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm happy to see, like, you know, you're back in the fray, Keane's still doing his thing, Beck's on the rise. I'll keep hobbling along. But we've got a lot of other lads coming in, like Kerry Agabi won junior nationals for the under threes. I think he got like 722, 725 total.
Just under 730, I think.
Yeah. Something crazy. Like, so he's looking really strong. Emil's, I can't remember his last name from
Odyssey,
he's looking really good. We were talking about Shay earlier on, really impressive bench press. He's also up over 700 total. I don't know what's happening with Damien Nam. I heard he was coming up to under 93.
Yeah, he was under 93 for the abs RHPF comp, but
terrifying, but yes.
Yeah. I used to compete against Damien's in 83 as well. I was hoping he'd stay there for forever. Yeah, and I think Toaster, he's part of IPF Romania or something.
Yeah, he's gone Romania, yeah.
Thank God. But that's I think the top 93 is, to be honest. I think Damien's got the higher total now, but I think Ewan or Ion, I
Yeah.
can never pronounce it.
Just Toaster.
Toaster. I think he's definitely there. It'd be Toaster, Damien, Keane, me, and it's kind of somewhere in that mixture. But yeah, no, it's really exciting just to kind of see where it's at. And like I was chatting to you before, like I remember being 83 and there was like a couple, I don't think I was first, I think it was maybe second. It was like Adam Keane, Sean Ryan, me, Will Clark squatting 250, whereas like now it's like 74s.
Yeah.
Trying it, if not doing it.
Well, man, look at the 83 battle from Junior Nationals.
Yeah.
Adam Duane and Callum O'Mahony. Outrageous stuff. And the rest of the flight as well. Some strong young lads coming up through now and into the Open too. And I even like that. Like if you look at a lot of the lads that are in Master M1 now who've been powerlifting a while, like
Big Anto.
Yeah, Anto, like that's ridiculously strong. He's the biggest under 105 total in the RHPF, I think, is he?
I think Dami overtook him there at Euros, but
okay, yeah, but still, you know. Like I think it's one of those things, like if you have, I think M1, if you've been powerlifting for a while, M1 is still essentially open.
Yeah.
You know, I think
definitely nationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending what nation you're from, but yeah. Even like Tony Cliff.
Yeah.
You know, he's still open. I think he just don't know how recently went into M1, but you know, he's still M1 regardless.
For everyone, so he's still a tank.
Yeah.
But right, so I want to ask a little bit about the timeline. You've alluded to it there. You've been in powerlifting about 10 years, started way back in the IDFPA, now debunked former Powerlifting Federation Ireland, was the tested Powerlifting Federation Ireland initially before the advent of the RHPF. Why powerlifting?
Yeah, it was Saul Niles' fault. Wee lad. I trained, if you could call that, in like a leisure center gym. And there's a guy there that says like, oh, you should try powerlifting. Your squat's really strong. And bear in mind, I was wearing Velcro knee wraps that I literally just wrapped around like a cord. Yeah. Because some meathead said I needed them for leg press. I was like, okay. And like they were doing nothing. Probably quarter squatting something. And I was like, I remember there was a gym local to me at the time, but they all seemed really strong and scary. So I was like, no. But it was only 24-hour gym near me. And wee lad was on the way. And I was like, if I join a 24-hour gym, I can't say I can't go to the gym because the gym's closed. So that was kind of where that came from. And they had like a powerlifting night on like a Monday and a Wednesday. And I went, I think for the first time, the guy that owned the gym, I'd say got the days wrong. So I landed on a Monday night expecting everybody to be there. There's nobody there, apart from one big geared up guy that was actually lovely. Show me what a deadlift jack was. But kind of started with that, and then it's just like, you know what, as I said, like I worked in a bar at the time. So I worked like 13-hour shift on a Saturday. Rugby matches were on a Saturday. Could do powerlifting every so often. Just booked the day off versus, you know, obviously wasn't going to be able to make a form of income every Saturday. And yeah, just like the lads were doing it, so I was like, yeah, I'll jump in here. And I was doing like the typical sort of cut and bulk bro like style. And I cut for my first comp because nobody told me it was a bad idea. From
amazing.
I was 72.6. What did I start my cut at? 92.
92. I was going to say like 80.
No, like that's still a terrible idea. But I was just like, yeah, cardio, all the rest of it. Didn't know what a program was. These guys, like, I didn't know at the time, but like 60% of them were enhanced. So they were just doing heavy triples, heavy singles, whatever, and getting strong because they had the recovery. And I was like bashing myself into a wall with like no calories. Did that comp, actually won it somehow. And I think set the total record. I think I set the squat record, but I went like 4 for 9. I think I got 2 squats, 1 bench, 1 deadlift. Hitched my 2 deadlifts. Didn't know what a hitch was. Yeah. Up until that point, but I'd matched opened on the squat record at the time, opened on the bench record at the time, opened the deadlift record at the time, even though I had no right doing any of that. But that was just the last, like, yeah, let's do this. Then did a push pull shortly after because it had no sense. Why not? And then I kind of found out about there's no Irish PF back then. So I was the NIPF, the Northern Irish Powerlifting Federation. And then I did IDFPA because that's where all the strong people were, which is kind of ironic now. If you know, you know. Yep. But like that's where like Adam Keane was. That's where I think Arthur Lynch was at the time. Sean Ryan was there. Like all the kind of like mainstays of the Irish PF. A few years later, Lorcan and Everard were down there. So like I was kind of winning the NIPF comps without trying, but like the standard just wasn't there. Yeah. So I was like, right, well, I'm not going to get strong doing this, so I'm going to go down here and get a bit humbled and, you know, try and go from there. And like the IDFPA did like single lifts. So I was like, I don't really care about squat or like ironically now I didn't care about squat, but like didn't care about squat or bench. Went down to Cork for the deadlift only comp for whatever reason. I actually went to international, quote unquote, for like the European single lift deadlift with like I think it was like 230 deadlift, like 70, I think it was like 76. I don't even think I weighed in the 75. And then the Irish BF came on shortly after, and then that's kind of whenever I still did a few NIPF comps in between. But you know, I didn't really understand. I don't think anybody really at the time understood like how big it was going to become, and it was like there was no like production like we have now. It was just kind of like you didn't know what Instagram was, but like you didn't know what Iron Aim was lifting because they didn't have the stories up, you know, promoting themselves or whatever. And you just kind of rocked up and you see a guy's name in the sheet, like, who's this? You know, and then it came from there. And yeah, it was kind of always, I was never really the top level. It was kind of always maybe 5th or 6th or something. And I was just happy enough, just trying to keep progressing, keep it 1 foot like forward in front of the other. As I say, I was like 74 then. I went up to 83 for a few years, and I went up to 93. I can't remember when, but like it's been a minute anyway. But yeah, it was kind of like the progression of it, and it's always just that thing of you know, once I did the first time, it kind of seen, you know, all this is actually there's a competitiveness to this, and I was like, I like lifting weights anyway, and you know, you weren't in like I was a prop in rugby, so like my neck was wrecked for like 2 days afterwards, where I was like just my knees be sore now, so it was kind of like the advantage of it. But yeah, that was kind of where it came from. And then, you know, I remember getting an invite for Irish PF Nationals up in, I think it was the first one maybe, and it was up in Belfast actually, so it's actually, I think it's like 5-10 minutes from where Jordan lives. So it's handy. We weren't going out at the time, so it was like 45 minutes from me. But I actually came 4th there. I think Mark Comiskey actually beat me in 3rd on bodyweight because it was Adam Keane was coaching me at the time, and he didn't. I think he was competing as well and didn't see it. But like, yeah, it was like Jonathan from Jay from City Gym was there. Me and him both got drug tested together. I remember stuff like that. I was like met Louis and stuff like that. And like seeing where it came from there, just crazy. Wild, yeah, it's like there was no sort of like, as you were kind of saying, if you're a lifter, they didn't really know like this isn't the norm. You know what I mean? Even if you go like chatting to some of the GB guys, like I think like some of their production standards went up recently, but like a few years ago or even a couple of years ago, like just normal sort of like an international away from like at home basically. Whereas now we have all the bells and whistles.
Did you do a meet as a 105?
I did a meet as a 105 the week before I competed as a 93. And I'll tell you why. It was the first meet after COVID.
Right.
And it was last chance was the week after.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to fuck up. I was like, I want to qualify for nationals. This is when I'm going to do it. I haven't competed in a year and a half or whatever it was. And I did it as an IPF comp because it was handy. Yeah. And, you know, paid 2 memberships for it. But I was like, yeah, whatever. I think it was like 95, 96 kilos. So I remember coaching the day before, and I bounced in a nightclub for like 6 or 7 weeks. Bounced that night, got a couple of lumps from throwing people out, and then the next day I went and competed, got a McDonald's breakfast, and was supposed to be a really chill comp. A mate of mine was actually away for coffee with him earlier, Chris McBride, strength coach, and I. He had the 105 record at the time, and I was just going to meme it, so I just chipped it by a kilo just to be a dick. And it's like kind of funny because like a few lads that have it now, or like a few lads that knew I had it, will still call it my record. I'm like, it was never my, like it was a joke because he does Ollie now, and like he was never going to come back. So it's just kind of my like, you know, so chipped his record just to be a dick. Can't remember what I benched, and I remember doing my second deadlift. Like, oh, I feel good. I'm gonna try 300, and the first ever 300 pull, had absolutely no right to take it, no like inkling of training that was leading that way. And then did the 300, was like static, and I was like, oh fuck, I have to compete next week. So it was like I competed on the Sunday, and I had to go back in the gym on a Monday. Like the next day, and was like, I feel okay, and I got under the bar, and like, oh, it was awful. But yeah, it was like 105, if you could call it. Like it was a 93 plus fat, basically.
Plus like one big poo.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was it like though to pivot a week? Like, you know, you had to like, you built into this comp, and then did you just taper that week, or did you just do a little bit of movement, or what did you do?
I just like near enough trained like normal.
Just trained.
So I kind of like decreased the intensity a bit. I did like an SBD on the Monday after doing an SBD in a comp, which was
Nice.
etched into my memory. But yeah, like I knew I didn't have to go all out for it, but I ended up doing that. But I knew like if I just had like a okay day, or just kind of made my attempts up, it was like 90% or something, I would have qualified for nationals, but I think I ended up PBing anyway, which I miss. But yeah, it was like I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was just kind of going. I think it was like Ashton Riska at the time was like kind of talking. I think it was one of the American lifters anyway, and they're saying like, you know, their day 4 is their like heavy SBD day, and you know, why should you change your training up for that? It's like, if that's when you're supposed to be strong, like if that's your primary day, why would you change the sessions before for competition? Which I was kind of like, I'm not too sure, but that was like, this is like a low stag meet, let's see how it goes. And like, yeah, definitely I haven't done it since.
Was that the last chance? There was one meet that you put up a really, really good total, like one open. I can't remember what it was. I remember Jerky's memed you for it.
Yeah, it's like Matt at Nationals and Matt at I think it was the Gainforth meet.
Right.
Open, potentially. It was one of the two. It was either Last Chance or the Gainforth meet. Because kind of like a few Nationals, like some sort of nagging injuries or something's came up, and they just haven't had the performances that I was able to put up at the time. Because I think I did a Nationals in abs.
There was a Nationals in abs 2022.
Yeah, I think I'd say had like the squad record for like a second, and then Kane took it. I think we kind of went back and forth, and there was like a misunderstanding of like what way it would go. I think it was because we thought if I was lighter I'd get to go after or whatever. But ended up I went first, and then he beat us. So I was like, oh, doesn't really matter. And then like my delts were kind of like, I got my opener, so I actually felt okay. Took the normal sort of jump for the second, and like just couldn't feel any sort of power pushing off my legs. And you know, that's where the Jura memes came out of. One of Jura's memes anyway.
I do always enjoy the different, like, I think getting memed by Jer is like a rite of passage in powerlifting in Ireland. And I've seen some people get really salty about it. Like, and it's almost like, so like, I buzz off Jer. Like, I've trained with Jer a good few times. Like, we've done some of our best preps for competitions together. It kind of fucks me off that he's gone back into strongman. It's like, come back into powerlifting. We need the memes more. But like that, I think it's like you kind of have to get where he's coming from, because it's always meant as a joke.
Yeah, I remember going out for, I trained with him, I think it was in the build up to that Nationals, and it was me, Jer, Katie, his wife, and I think it was Jake Brennan. Went to, you know, the wee cafe like across the road from Abs. You go out the State Centre in there, wherever that is. And I think Jared went to the toilet, and obviously Jared does his memes in the toilet because I was sitting in the queue or standing in the queue with his wife and really spoke to the time. Katie's lovely, but I got the notification. I was like, Jerky's has mentioned you in the story, and I was like, if I could explain to you the fear I get when I see this, and she's like, when I see that, I just think it's the cat. I was like, yeah, fair enough. So everybody else is like clenching. And she's like, oh, wonder what Buddy, isn't it?
Yeah,
wonder what Buddy's up to. Yeah,
it is. It's always that. Like, I remember the first time happened, I was like, no way. It's fine. I finally got one. Like,
hangs up the singlet.
But he said it to me, like, he's like, oh man, you take them too well. I don't like when people take them well, because it gives me no more material. You know what I mean? But I love it, man. I think it's so funny. Like, he finds exactly the thing to say to, like, he did one about the under 63 juniors. About it was the house burning down at the attempt selections. Oh, it's too funny. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I know if you look at the the lifting cast for that, there is a lot of missed attempts. Like, that was a very butt clenching flight. I won't lie. We actually thought a couple of the girls were potentially going to bomb out. They didn't. Thankfully, nobody bombed out. But it was a very tense warm-up room. But it was good crack, and it was nice to just for that moment of levity. But I always get a laugh out of it, and I think it just adds another level of drama that I think it actually makes it enjoyable. You know,
so some people take it too harsh, but then they're going to do that for most other things. And you know, like, there is definitely like a fine line, and like I can't remember what it was, but like I'm sure there's been like a time or two with me, Big Jerv, like I'm like, okay, easy. Yeah. And like if you kind of go about it the right way, he will like, be like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, he's there about it. But if you go guns blazing, then like, oh no, I want you to stop. He's probably not gonna.
Yeah.
No, he's definitely not gonna stop.
Nah, yeah, I completely see that. I think sometimes if he knows he's really getting under somebody's skin, that's when Jared digs in more, and it's like, man, maybe now is the time to take the foot off the gas and go, you know what, whatever. But I must get Jared on this podcast.
I was thinking that coming down the road, I was like, I think there'll be plenty of Q&A questions. For
I only said it to him recently. I asked him recently, would he be interested in coming on? He said yes, but he wants to wait till he's done something we're talking about right now other than the memes. Because like he's coming back after, I think it was an elbow or shoulder injury from a press. So he wants to wait till he's back competing regularly in strongman so we can talk a little bit about that. So I get it. I respect it. He doesn't just want to come on and talk about his memes, even though I adore them. I think they're fantastic. But I've got a lot of time for when he puts those things up. But incidentally, you've seen and we've demonstrated across time, you've gone between a lot of weight classes. You've naturally found your groove as an under 93. Now that you deal with a lot of new powerlifters yourself, coaching people into the sport, both from beginning to a very high standard, do you find you have a lot of the same conversations with people at different stages in the journey?
Yeah, like a lot of times, like especially like it seems to be younger lads. They'll be like, "Oh, I want to compete at like under 74." I'm like, "No, you don't." It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, especially if they're a junior, I'm very much for like, unless they are fighting for a national championship, and even at that, it's like, how would they be competitive if they moved up after a year? But especially when they're still growing, it's like, what benefit are you getting other than you're spending less money on food and energy to have going around? But it's like the same sort of conversation. Like I said once, like most of the time it has went well. Like I remember having a guy, COVID killed him off with, not actually killed him, but like killed his powerlifting off. But he was like taller than me. I think he's like just under 6. I'm well under 6 foot, but I think he's just under 6 foot and he's 74. And I was like, mate, you're not a 74. And he got selected for Commonwealths. Did Commonwealths. So I was like, okay. Oh, I'd actually tell you a lie. He went to, there was a 2-day comp and he was coming up. He was lifting on the Sunday. First day he was up. He was kind of just going and watching some of the other lads compete. And I was still working in the bar. Finished coaching for the day. Went to the bar. And he was competing under 74. He's like 74.5 that day, like the day before. I was like, okay, just be smart. Cut your food, water off a bit early. You'll be sweet. Don't be stupid. Like, and I was working in the bar, got my break 1 a.m. Looked at my phone in the group chat. He sent a picture of a Chinese through, and I'm like, oh my god! And I was like, this is like an hour before, so I was going to text him. I was like, well, if he was going to eat this Chinese, he's at it. I was like, he's bound to have stood on scale. I realized he's like 73 or something and can afford to eat this, whatever. So that was grand. The plan was to meet him after weigh-ins. I got a phone call. I think the weigh-ins like 8:30. He's ringing me at 8:25. He's like, mate, I'm still 0.5 over. I'm like, why did you eat the Chinese? Like, of all the things to eat, it's like the most sodium calorie dense thing. He's like, well, you know what I mean? And I was like, well, are you close to the venue? He's like, no, I'm like 20 minutes away. So he's late for weigh-ins as well. And I was like, right, well, it's up to you. He's like, do you want to guest lift or you want to, try and make late? So you want to try and make late, made it. And I seen it. I was walking up the pathway and he was outside smoking. And I was like, if you want to continue to be coaching me, you'll be 83 kilos. I was like, are you gone? And anyway, he competed a couple months later as 74. And the commentator, who had no idea who this lad was like, oh, very tall for 74. I think we'll definitely see a weight class or two going on for him. I was like, do you see what I mean? Sometimes I think, whenever you develop a relationship with your lifter, there's a friendly sort of relationship. Like I like having the crack with who I coach.
Banter often,
Obviously it's different for different lifters. You can't go off the personality, but I think sometimes people are like, oh, you're just saying. I was like, no, I'm objectively saying I think it's in your best interest. And then I was kind of showing, I was like, this commentator has no idea who you are and is objectively saying you're too tall for this weight class. It's very, very rare that if I have somebody who's cutting down, it's usually because their main goal then is body composition. I'm like, okay, it's as long as you understand, if you want to maintain your strength, we're going to do it slowly, we're going to do it right, we're not going to be cutting calories in half, and your total may go up. It's not as likely as if you're in a surplus, but as long as you're aware of that, we're changing the shift in our focus to more body composition focused while maintaining as much strength as we can, and then once we get to where we want to, we can kind of change gears again. But most of the time it's people thinking they're going to be more competitive, staying in a weight class when they realistically aren't competitive anyway. And as a nice and objective way as possible, I'm like, you might be competitive in a group of 6 people that just turned up to this random regional comp, but I was like, there could be 6 different people in another regional comp that are making you not competitive, you know?
I think people sandbag their weight classes an awful lot, and they're costing themselves long-term progress. And like that, I think it's people only think between competitions as opposed to thinking big picture. If I'm in powerlifting in another 5 years, how am I going to continue to grow and develop, get stronger and more muscular, but still stay this weight? That's impossible.
Yeah, and like there's been people talking to me moving up to 105s and stuff like that. I think I'd say wool for a stint anyway. I don't know. Like that's the thing as well. Is I think people are like, you know, if I do a comp at 105, I am now 105. I cannot go up or down. That is my new reality. But like I think I'll probably go for a period next year anyway. But like my thing was like I didn't feel good. It wasn't even just like, you know, sort of body image, but also just like, you know, my wee lad's 10 now, and like I'm not super. I'd say I'm actually quite fit, but like I'm not. I don't think it matters how fit somebody is, like running after a kid, because they're just going to always have more energy than you do. And you're like, once they like go up past a certain threshold, it's like I feel lethargic, I feel crap, you know, belt's too tight, whatever. But like I've been heavy. Like I remember going from, like as I say, like you competing at a weight class or being a certain weight doesn't mean that's where you are. Like I remember doing a comp, can't remember what comp it was, or dieting for a comp or whatever it was, but it was like 92 kilos. And I was like, I don't know if you've ever had this, but like me and a guy, I'd say coach one, Sam Mitchell, if he listens to this, but we always says like, we're going to do this comp, we're going to make weight, and then we're going to stay at that weight for a couple of weeks, and then we're going to, you know, like slowly bulk up, we're going to put on lean muscle mass, and you would be like straight to the pizza straight after, and it's like doesn't happen. But this time I'd actually, you know, maintain the weight. It's like, this is the time, this is the one. And then lockdown kicked in, and I went like from training 4 or 5 days a week for 7 years at that stage, 8 years, whatever, to nothing like everybody did. And I just went, I was like, I'm eating the exact same food, not doing any activity. And I went to, I'd never been 100 kilos before. I was 108. And I was like, right. I was like, I am going to go. And then we were kind of, like everybody, or most people kind of did if they had access to it. Somebody home gym, and one of there's Thomas, I went up training with him, and like slowly came down again. But yeah, it's like that thing is like people kind of get cemented to this sort of lifestyle and like having a certain weight. But you know, I think going up, even like sitting at like a heavier weight for a period and like getting your training numbers go stronger, like allows you to recomp. Like if I found a picture, like I've actually found a picture a couple of weeks ago, just deleting pictures on my phone of like me at like 94 kilos, and I was like me light, like was it 95.4 or something this morning.
I was going to ask what you walk around.
Yeah, like 95.4 something this morning. A bit heavier after London at the weekend, but
when you were asleep, in the cafe,
called out. But yeah, like if I looked at that picture of me at 94 versus me at 95, like I'm significantly leaner. There's not a lot more muscle mass, but there's more. It's definitely more muscle mass there, because I'm leaner and the same weight. That's just, again, if you're a natural lifter and you're not focused solely on like hypertrophy and aesthetics, it's going to take a long time, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's that like no particular state you find yourself in means you're that way forever. So even if people talk about competing as 93, that doesn't mean that's what you got to walk around at for the majority of the time. Like I have a young guy now who just competed at Junior Nationals. He had a really good day. He's an under 90. He just competed under 93, but we've both agreed this is his last meet as an under 93. Like the lad's about like, he's like 6'1". You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He finished on a 585 total. I was like, embrace going into the 105s. I'm not saying you have to weigh in at 105 for your next meet, but even if you just are eating, enjoying training, pushing some numbers, and we have you compete again towards the end of the year, I'm very confident he'll be in the range of about like 630 to 650, just by not having to make weight every time. Like he weighed in at exactly 93. He had to get butt naked in the weigh in as well. Like, you know, so we're like, right, that's it. You're done with this weight class. And he's like, yep, can't wait to eat. And I was like, that's music to my ears that's what he wants. And it is that. It's sometimes you're trying to convince people that you might sacrifice being competitive in this very like arbitrary thing you've decided for yourself right now, but you're going to make yourself way, way stronger down the road. And I would completely agree with your sentiment. And like for me, like more often than not, I do most of my training somewhere between 95 and 97. Like I usually try to sit around there. It's where I feel very, very comfortable. And then usually I'll just do a little bit of manipulation to make a 93 actually for under 93 for a Christmas qualifier. It was easy because I had done the cup for Western. So I just got to eat into the meat then to try and get some weight back on. But I do think that's kind of like one of the things you develop in the sport the longer you're in it. You realize that this isn't like cutting and bulking like bodybuilding. It's not always trying to go into the lower class. You know, a lot of the time it's like, what can I do to make it that I can lift more and have more productive training cycles, which will play out better for me in the long run. And I think even for us as coaches, that's probably something that takes time for us to really realize, like, what's going to be the best, not for the lifter between now and their next competition, but what's best for this lifter over a much longer period of time. Have you ever seen Andrew Blackwood's post about it? I think it was very good. It's weight classes are secretly height classes.
Yeah.
It's so true, man.
Yeah, it's the same with like any sort of weight category sport, like fighting. You know, like the short guys aren't heavyweight. You know?
Yeah. You posted a Q&A for us to answer a few questions for the audience. But there was a couple that I think kind of crossed over to some things I wanted to ask you. So I'll start with one that was probably the more common one. In Ireland, you have a choice when you live up north to compete as part of the NIPF, the Northern Ireland Powerlifting Federation, or the Irish PF, the one down in the Republic. What made you decide that the international pathway for you was down south through the Irish PF? Yeah,
so it's actually different now than it was whenever I initially had to like choose. If you want to kind of word it like that, I think if you represent GB or Ireland or whatever internationally, I think it's like a 6-month cool off period now. Maybe it's a year, can't remember exactly, but I remember it used to be 2 or 3 years, so it's definitely like decreased significantly. But the reason I kind of chose, like as I said before, is like the higher standards lifters at that time, and like to be honest, still now, for the most part anyway, was down south in the Irish PF. And that's kind of where, you know, I'd rather be like a tiny fish in a big pond than, you know, big fish in a small pond. And like you know, like you obviously have like the political side of things, like what you want to, like what sort of side of the fence you're on. Like I'm Irish, I always say I'm Irish, but like
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I knew that's, it came up my Q&A, so I was like, I'll just kind of address it now when I'm answering it. But for me as well, like whenever, as I said, like I was working at a bar, I was on like a $5 an hour at the time, and the wee lad there, I was just kind of working all hours of the day. I was like, if I wasn't good enough for GB, because they're all savages and they have been for 10 years at least, but I would have had to like do a comp in NI and then fly over to England, Scotland, Wales, wherever the qualifier was there. Say I won that, which I wouldn't have, but say I won that, I'd have to fly over, book a hotel, you know, stay there and then fly back. And then if somebody broke their leg and I got to represent GB, I'd have to fly again then to wherever the international is. And just from like a money standpoint, it's just like, no, I was like, it's not worth it for me. I was like, you know, I was always interested in representing Ireland because like that's like why I kind of do it. I was like, my sort of goal is like, you know, if I can represent my country in any sort of way, it's like that's the sort of pinnacle of where I'll be. I'll never be a European champion, world champion, or whatever. But it's like that's, you know, every time I put that singlet on, I remember the first time I got one. So again, skint, uni student at this stage. Uni student. Lithuania. I flew in and got there. It was like the first flight I'd been on without my mom and dad holding my hand. So I went and, you know, got there. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night because I thought it was like going to be like 9:30, but it was Irish time I was reading it in, not Lithuanian time. And I remember Janine Boyd, European champion, I think that year. She had got the kit for me because again, like now we have SPD Ireland send it out to your door. Yeah. Back then I think it was somebody, Jay or somebody, put it in their suitcase, and you know, like I didn't get my knee sleeves that day, I just happened to, you know, bring my own. But she had to go and get the paperwork for me and get the kit for me, so I met her at the hotel lobby at like 11:30. I think it was the first time I met Ali and Leslie as well. And I remember like setting it down the bed and I just looked at it. I just remember just looking, I was like, I can't fucking believe this, you know. I was like, this is all hours in the gym, this is like everything. Like if I can picture, I still saved my phone as my fears every time, like I have a shit session, not every time, but like every now and again I just look at it like, oh fuck. Like, you know, it's like if I could just relive that moment again, you know, would do it every day. So that's kind of where it came from with my route. And a few ones that I asked, you know, if you were to like advise a lifter, like a young lifter or any lifter, you know, what route to choose, I just kind of, it's up to you. You know what I mean? It's like, they had said politics aside, and you know, like if it's politics aside and you don't care what country you represent, you just want to go to an international. Yeah. For me, maybe just stingy fucker, but like I'm like Irish because you just have to go down the road, you know, and qualify if you can, versus having to do NI and then go over to GB or whatever. And like for the most part, like Jordan's from the other side of the fence, you know, and like doesn't matter to her and Janine, Boyd is as well. Like there's loads of people. I don't think really, like from what I've experienced, I don't think politics really come in to Irish powerlifting. You know, like I don't know what side of the fence you're from, and I couldn't really give a shit to be honest. Like, you know, it's like that's kind of the way it comes through. There's more. What I would say as well is like with the NI side of things, like you can do like Commonwealths, which, you know, you don't necessarily have to be as high a standard because you don't have to make GB team. You can make the NI team, and you know, like some people like that. For me, like I was invited to, I think the first one I was invited to was like in South Africa years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, and I was just like, one, I just didn't want to. I want to go to the Irish route, and I would have had to wait 2 years or more at that stage. But it was also just like, you know, you could, like, I could be Commonwealth champion with my total, you know, which is kind of, for me, is like false. Because like I'm not an international champion sort of caliber lifter. And even like Western Euros, like I was like one of my, like talk about bucket lists, like one of my bucket lists is international medal. And like technically I have one, like the Western European, like at silver. That's not to like knock on anybody that's done that, but just for me, I want more for myself. So I'm like, you know, whenever I'm like fucking old and grey, I might be like, yeah, well, I had it all along, you know. But for me now to kind of push myself more, I'm like, you know, I'm not accepting that at this time. And like for Commonwealths, most of the time, or not most of the time, but like there is some flights that aren't stacked, so that, you know, like somebody that's a recreational regional level lifter could win. And usually it depends on like where the nation, like what nation is being held at. So like obviously New Zealand has world class lifters, some South Africans, Canadians, GB or whatever. And you know, like if it's only down the road from them, you know, they might choose to do that just for the sake of doing it. But yeah, it's just kind of personal preference. You know, like I've never advised someone like, oh, don't do that because you'll be a Brit, you know. And maybe Wayne Jordan up about it, but like, you know, I just kind of go and support, like the same like with USAPL or, you know, Irish PF or NIPF. As long as I think the competition is safe, you know, and like there's no sort of, I haven't really followed any competition not safe, but you know, it's like as long as I think it's good enough for the lifter, I'll go wherever my lifters decide to go, you know. And like I'll maybe advise, you know, like if they want to do a meet, that's in like April and the next one's in May, you know, I might advise like, you know, pick one of them, but it's not going to be necessarily on preference of who is hosting it, you know, unless they're like an international standard lifter and they want to go that route, then obviously I'll have the considerations, but it's mostly personal preference, to be honest. You know?
I agree with that. Like I think for the vast, and I've said this on this podcast already, for the vast majority of people, picking meets are when's a convenient time, what's a convenient location, and when do you feel like you'll be ready? And financially as well. Do you want to have to travel? Are you okay not traveling? So like that, if there's one, if lifters like, well, I have to lift in April because I'm going for summer, I'm studying abroad or whatever, and the only April meets a fucking ab series, they could lift at an ab series. If they only meet at USAPL, they could lift at USAPL. If it's an NIPF, if it's an Irish PF, it's completely up to them. I am really interested personally, like in the political side of it from up north. Like I'm not going to ask you to become the judge, jury, and executioner for Northern Irish powerlifting, because again, you lift in the Irish PF, so I'm sure the majority of the answers would be I don't know. But I'm always curious about that. Like I wonder what, like, is there a different culture? Have you noticed a different culture of powerlifting up the north or versus the south, or do you think you've spent enough time between the two to notice?
Yeah, also like I'll always sort of have, like, I don't know if I'll ever lift an IPF again, to be honest. You know, like as I say, I don't know how long I'm going to continue lifting for. I could get to the stage where I'm like, you know, I'm just doing it for the crack now. Can't be arsed driving to Cork for a Delph only comp.
Limerick just a spot and out the girl.
She's never done that for me. But you know, like I feel like NIPF, they used to have the dual membership, so that you could go and like if you had one membership, you could lift an either or, which I liked because, you know, that's kind of probably whenever, apart from that 105 comes, like whenever I was still kind of doing NIPF comps, because like I don't want to pay for two memberships. And there's also a stage where you could like buy an Irish PF membership and like give a bit of a kickback to the NIPF or vice versa. And I always did that, you know, like nobody knew that, maybe mentioned it to some random person, but I always did because I was like, you know what, if it wasn't for the NIPF, I wouldn't be sitting here. You know what I mean? Like, as I say, I wouldn't be powerlifting, I wouldn't be doing all the things I do now. I definitely feel like, and I think it's probably down to the committee, you know, like I had like actually messaged a couple ones on the committee at the time in the NIPF to see about voluntary roles, and I was asking because I had, you know, like volunteered for the coaching role, like helping out some internationals in Irish PF, and I didn't know if there was like a conflict of interest if you could do it because they're two different feds. And I kind of thought to myself, like, I was really interested. Like, in my opinion, you can't complain too much about something in like this sort of voluntary sport if you're not willing to volunteer to make some of the changes you're complaining about. And I kind of like had the interest of volunteering and doing more stuff. Like, you know, I was like, I have too much on my plate. It's like I wouldn't want to go because I would just be a hypocrite then. It's like if I'm volunteering to do something and I'm not pulling my weight, you know, that's not helping anybody. There could be somebody, like if I take something like your place, you want to go for the same role, I get the place and I do nothing but scratch my ass, like, you know. But I definitely think the committee down south is more, at the minute anyway, you know, it could all change. At the minute, they're more driven for change and improving the, you know, the atmosphere for the lifter and the experience for the lifter. Not to say that the NIPF don't give a fuck about the lifters, but it's definitely there's more production value definitely in the Irish PF than the NIPF. At the minute, in my opinion. In terms of like the inner workings and stuff of it, I don't really know to be brutally honest. Like I've done the Q&A that people are asking, I'll bring up the NIPF Irish PF drama. I'm like, if you're worried about that, you're not worried about getting strong because you know, like I hear things about it and like if I catch myself getting on, I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's not gonna. All I'm gonna do is annoy myself and take energy away from what I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is get as strong as I fucking can. You know what I mean? It's like you'll hear people like, not to say you can't talk about things and it's not. You know, life would be very boring if you didn't talk about outside things. But it's like, you know, if somebody is going and just chatting to you about that all the time and just trying to find holes and complaints with stuff, like that person just zapping your energy. Yeah. You know, and it's like a lot of times I'll see these people and I'm in the gym and I just put my earphones on. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do a set here, and I might not be going to do a set. I might be going to scratch my ass over in the corner, but I'm like, just you know. But as well as that, it's like the same for anything. You know, if you ask me an opinion on something, I might have heard 70% of the story. Yeah. You know, there's things from like different sides where I don't agree with from different parties. Yeah. But it's never, you know, directly impacted me. There's been things that's impacted my friends that I don't agree with it, and I'll say to my friend and that confidence, you know, like, like I was fucking shit, or like, you know, if I disagree with my friend, I'll tell them, you know, it's like, you know, to be honest, I see where they're coming from, you know, but it's that sort of Chinese whispers as well. But I think there definitely is, you know, like same way in any committee, there's going to be some sort of grievances with each other, but you know, as I say, like I'm just worried about. As long as it doesn't directly impact my lifter. If it impacts me or like as a lifter or like, somebody, if it impacts me as a coach or whatever, like if I couldn't coach my lifters, then it'd be a different conversation. Yeah. But like if somebody's saying he said, she said about me, I'm like, okay. Yeah. You're like, okay. You know, like they're not
a big bollocks.
Yeah, like they're not gonna say it in my face, and if they do, I'll either not give a fuck or I'll address it then, but like, it hasn't happened, you know. As long as my lifters have somewhere to lift, you know. Yeah. You know, like I'll always kind of go with it. There's maybe calls I'm not happy with or whatever. But you know, you voice it to that person and they either do something with it or they don't. You know, if it's a different ball game, if the lifter's experience is down in the gutters and it's like not acceptable at all, you know. But as this, like we've kind of talked about, like powerlifting in Ireland is, I think, very healthy place, including up north. IDFPA days, you were lifting bumper plates, not combo racks. I remember
Adam Phillips talked a bit about it.
Yeah, we were chatting. I'd say I think it was in Turkey. He had said that me and him competed against each other or competed in the same room, and I was like, when? He's like, Mad Cow or Red Cow in Dublin or something, IDFPA comp. And I was like, how did you know that? I was like, oh man, I was like, I remember seeing you there. I remember you're like an open powerlifting scene. I was like, man, I had no idea. Sorry, you know what I mean? But like, that's how long we've been doing it. And like, I think there was like 3 or 4 platforms on that day, and I would say organized chaos. Wasn't even organized. Yeah, just chaos. Yeah. So yeah, just kind of like politics that there will be with any sort of sport.
Anytime you gather people in one place, you're going to have politics. Yeah. And you know, I will say as well, and this is something I've said before on here about whenever a lifter, a coach, whoever it might be, has something to say about the running of a competition or the organization of a committee or the way competitions are held or where they're held or the way they're presented or the lifter experience, the spectator experience, whatever it might be. If that person has a legitimate, whether it's a criticism, a grievance, constructive feedback, the best thing you can do is filter through how you feel about what they say and say, what can I take from this? What can I do to improve this? And I will say that like every time I've worked with Jay Farrant on the series, he's been very receptive to feedback. And if I'll have a hand in like changing around a few things. Now, I'm not saying it's my baby, it's all his. But like if I make a recommendation I think we should try this, I think this would be cool, he'll listen. And if we try one big thing I've said to him a few times is that the music at the meets is either phenomenal, like it really sets the atmosphere, or if we're changing fucking songs to bullshit every time somebody walks out, or people are arguing over what genre of music they're on, depending on who's on commentary, like that fucking ruins it. We need to stop that. So this time we're going to try a DJ who is a powerlifter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to see how that goes.
Knows what the crack is.
Knows what the crack is. Yeah. Right? And in the same way, we had USAPL, the Leinster Open. I had great crack at that meet. I loved that it was just one day. So it's just one big fucking long full day. But I immediately went to Ian Benson after one of the event organizers and I said, here are 5 things I loved and here's 20 things that need to be fixed. Yeah. And he was like, thank you very much. And he sent me back a big whiteboard of what they were working on and was like, let me know if there's anything I need to add to this, because he wants it to be better. Yeah. And it's the same with the Irish PF, because I know Jer actually recently, Jer Achilles posted something where somebody was like essentially ridiculing the Irish PF for putting on a really good competition. Yeah. And there was a rebuttal put up about, but is this not what we wanted? That was me, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was me. And I was saying, how can we fault people for doing what we asked? Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if it took USAPL and Ab Series doing it first for it to happen. It's happened. It's great.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is like, you know, if you're complaining about that, you know, like what, like, oh, fuck, the Irish PF put on a good meet. Oh, USAPL was better than Irish PF, or the Irish PF was better than USAPL. You've got 2 really good competitions to go to. You know, it's just going to go and get better. And it's that sort of thing is like applies to most things. Like the standard goes up, you know, the standard of performance in lifting, the standard of performances at comps. If one of them goes up, the other one will go up as well. And if they don't, they will get, like, the lifter will get left to the weigh-by side, and same with the federation, you know, and that's, if they don't adapt.
Like, where's the IPF now? Or the FBA now?
Yeah, that's it, you know. And it's that sort of thing. It's like, those are, like, in my opinion anyway, those are the sort of people that are just kind of bickering about that. They're like, they're worrying about the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you're not contributing in a, like, positive way. And like, that's why I kind of chatted to Jay, I think it was in Romania. It was before, it was last year. He was talking about USAPL and stuff like that. And I was like, what do you think about it? And I was like, you know, I was like, I could be wrong. I was like, I hope I'm wrong. I don't, like, to be honest, it doesn't make a massive difference. I was like, I don't see it being here in 5 years. I was like, could be wrong. I was like, but I think that the fact that the big American lifters aren't even staying on it kind of speaks volumes to me. But I was like, I think you'll be successful in it. Like, like at home, because I was like, you and Gar and Ian will put on a good show and you will listen to, you know, what the people are saying.
Yeah.
You know, but like, they could put on the best shows in the world, and if the USAPL in 5 years or 10 years or whatever sinks, they're going to have to they're going to have to rebrand, you know what I mean? It could still be the USAPL with a different banner.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's one of those things, and it's like, I had said to him, I was like, I personally won't lift in it straight away anyway. I was like, maybe, like, I always kind of say never, because like 7-8 years ago, I would have been like, yes, this is what I'm doing. This is not what I'm doing. And you could not change me, or that was like my mindset. And then slowly just kind of like, okay. Whereas now I'm like, you know, who knows? Yeah. But, you know, for the most part, it's like people are complaining like, oh, the Irish PF did this and they're like celebrating. I'm like, yeah, well, if you go out and hit a deadlift PB, somebody, well, depends who the person is, but they're not going to be like, well, that was shit. You know, they're like, yeah, good job. And you'll have that pride in it. And then you're not going to end it there. You want to try and do better the same way.
Yeah.
The Irish PFL or USAPL or Ab Series or whoever.
And I've actually said this again. I've said this before on the podcast. A lot of the people it's all the same people.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a lot. Like, I'll give you a prime example. Maeve Mannion lifts with Urban Barbell. Maeve was lifting at USAPL and handling at Junior Nationals. You know, like, it's all the same interchangeable people all the time. Like, so I really don't, like, it's not going to be that big of a deal in the long run. I think the people that see it as the big drama are probably not the people that it's really that.
The people are looking for the drama. That's what I mean. There's like, if people are focusing on like, what is drama? What is this? I was like, me and you are focusing on different things. You know, I was like, you know, if you want to keep focusing on that, all the best, good luck. But like, I'm over here with what I'm focusing on. Like, that's what I'm going for. And then, you know, like, I'll have a laugh. Like, I'll see a Jerkley's meme and I'll be like, oh, for fuck's sake. Or I'll laugh at it or whatever it is. Or like, somebody will say something, or there'll be, the shit t-shirts, the shit I got, you know. I'll be like, oh yeah, that t-shirt was shit. You know, but like, aside from that.
The Game Fort one, was it?
I can't remember. I remember there was a Sammy, he's actually doing my training. It was a bench comp every year.
Right.
And I had like I Heart Bench on the sleeve, and they were going to sell them for £20. I was like, I would not wear that for £20 in my house by myself. You know what I mean? But like, I'm maybe rant about something for like 5-10 minutes with people that, I trust and like know that like once the conversation's over, we're done talking about it. We're not going to bring it up every time. Be like, oh, and there's just, again, like sapping your energy of bullshit, like,
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that, like I was saying initially, like I think we've seen that as while like people don't want to see their thing get criticized, right? And some of the criticism is just hate. It's just from below. You can ignore it, but filter through that and see what could be relevant. So this is not the first time I've heard a lifter that lives in the north of Ireland that said, I lift down south because either the standard's higher or the meats are better produced, whatever it might be, right? So if you're somebody in the NIPF, right, that shouldn't be triggering. That should be, great, okay, what lessons can we take to make competitions better standard for our domestic lifters that want to lift in the NIPF, that are like hardcore, loyal, whatever word you want to use? What can we do to enhance that experience? Where could we improve? What are we doing well? What do we need to keep doing? And what can we improve upon? And I think that's a more productive way to do that. I know that's what the RSPF do. I know that's what Jay does. And that's what the guys from USAPL are doing. And I'm really hoping that like you will see, and you could probably speak more to that. I'm sure you've got lifters that lift in the NIPF. Do you think now, as we've seen this year, first quarter 2024, the meat standards has, I would say, skyrocketed from my own personal experience as a coach, like being in the warm-up rooms and things like that, as I mentioned, the quality of the meats, how the lifters feel on the platform. Do you think that will have then a snowball effect for NIPF meets potentially?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't, like, as I say, like, I'm not saying that they aren't improving. Like, whenever I came up, it was the same leisure centre, Valley Leisure Centre, if anybody was doing it. The warm-up room was like from here to fucking like around like 4 or 5 corners away. Like, you used to have to run up between your warm-ups to check where you were, what was going on. There's different venues now. There's definitely more gyms popping up north. Like, there's Reform, there's Gainforth, there's Sammy's that I train in. There's another gym, I forget what you call it, Resurgence or something, I think you call it. Like, there's more powerlifting gyms for us up north, which is great. Like, we're spoiled. Like, if I go away and I go to train in like a different country, you're like, oh, you're so spoiled. You're driving like 45 minutes away to get to a gym that's kitted out okay. That's not even amazing. Whereas like we're spoiled up north, and like I think it's happening more down south as well from like what I'm seeing. Obviously there's Chaos, Abs, Fire, like it was just 3 that came to my head, like Phenom, City Gym, you know what I mean? Like there's loads there, and that's just me just from looking on Instagram, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that the people in NIPF aren't trying to improve. I'm not saying that they aren't improving, but I definitely see a sizable gap, and like I'm not saying this to put anybody down, because again, like they're all volunteers, and
they're doing their best.
Yeah, like I volunteer in the sense of like volunteer, but like I coach, I bring people to the federation. They're helping grow it by competing in it. If I am ever competing and I can spot and load, I will, which sometimes is against my better judgment. I spot after a Christmas clash and I get drug tested straight away. So I went from the platform to the drug testing room straight on the platform again, didn't get a second. I was regretting my life choices. If anybody has a live stream video, you'll see me like hanging on the weight tree in the background. But I think it's just like, like I think with the Irish PF committee, a lot of them are younger. A lot of them have different skill sets probably. There are like a few old guards in the Irish PF, and I think there's a few old guards on the NIPF. But you only can do what you can do. Like I don't have the skill set to do what Ken does, or the Phenom ones, or Tracy Kelly, or Adam Phillips, or Jen, or all the guys in the Irish PF that I know more personally because that's where I lived. I know some of the members on the committee on the NIPF, but not to the same degree. So I don't know what they do exactly. I know a few ones do. I know Anto's CEO, I think, or president. But I don't have the skill set that Ken and those guys have, and they might not have somebody that has that skill set in their committee. And like they could potentially pay someone. They might not have the funds for it. I don't know, because I don't know. So it's not that I'm necessarily putting some down, but like if I was to bring 10 people that have never competed before and go to NIPF, they would leave happy. You know what I mean? But they don't know any better. If they brought those same 10 people, brought them to an Irish PF after, I think if they took the travel out of it and they just went like the experience, I think 10 out of 10 would say that, like, and you take politics out of it as well. Like that doesn't really come into my radar, but if you take that out of it as well, I think 10 out of 10 will say this was the better experience. I could be wrong. I could be biased without knowing it, but just from what I've seen, it just seems to be a smoother ship and seems to be
Mm.
more focused on progression and like making it better for the lifter.
Good.
But yeah, like if I could click my fingers and then APF, USAPL, Irish PF, IDFBA, all the same sort of caliber of competition, I would do it, because it's going to make it better for everybody.
Which is the thing we all really want.
Which is the goal. You know what I mean?
I think for us as well, we're like doubly like in favor, because not only do we lift at these meets, we're also coaching people.
Yeah,
so
you don't want a shit comp because you're like, oh, I'm falling asleep here because the music's crap, or it's running 2 hours behind and I have to stay here, haven't had any food or whatever. But yeah, it's like, you know yourself, there's going to be comps that maybe have higher stakes. Like if I have somebody that are going head to head, that's far more exciting for me than somebody's just trying to chip their PB.
Yeah, I'm
still buzzing for them if they do that, and like that is my goal, to make them stronger and like have a good day and all the rest of it. But yourself, like if you have that sort of, like, especially if you're like, I'm competitive, like I will be competitive or try to be competitive in things I have absolutely no right to be, and get annoyed at it when I lose. But you're gonna have more. It's going to be more entertaining for you. Whereas if you're going to comp, it's like an international, and it's it's crickets. You still get excited for it because you're going against the best in Europe or best in the world, but it's a different. You kind of like manage your expectations for the day you're having. But yeah, like the better the competitions, the better it is for everybody. Maybe not for the people organizing it, except they're going to work a bit harder. But yeah,
stripping down venues till 3 o'clock in the morning. Right, I have 2 last questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go. This first one is relatively serious on the same vein, right? Because it was something that, we had a meet up in Belfast, NIPF/Irish PF last year, right? And one of my lifters said that, is it just me, or do you get like a weird buzz up here being up north as a Republican? Now, I don't personally, I don't care, right? Yeah. But I don't live up north, right? Mm. I'm probably a bit, like, for lack of a better word, a bit too fucking retarded to pay attention, right? Yeah. But you said yourself, you see yourself as an Irish person. Does any of that still exist up north?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, it's just people stuck in the past. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think they'll always exist because, like, from my experience of it, it'll be like their mum and dad will have been raised by their mum and dad who've been taught the same thing, and just like maybe they'll slowly fade out. But I think if you were to, like, say 200 years from now, will there still be Catholics sitting in a rough area of Belfast or somewhere up north that hate Protestants? Yeah, and the same on the other side. And like, there's a guy like the Shankill and the Falls are kind of like the two famous ones. I still don't know which one is Catholic, which one's the Protestant one, because I don't give a fuck. Yeah. But I remember coaching a guy, and he was from the Shankill as the Protestant one. Yeah, I remember now. Right. And I remember he had made some sectarian joke at me. And I was like, you're like, I'm the worst Catholic ever. You're like you're trying to offend the wrong person. I'd probably be more on your side than you are. And he's like, mate, it's like, we're just fucking two idiots raised on different sides of the fence. He's like, it's just like, it's the exact same thing, different coin. Yeah. But definitely it's going to be like, it's definitely like less than it would have been 20 years ago, I'm sure. Like growing up, like we were never sort of raised that sort of way. Like I couldn't tell you a Rebel song, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like never really was a thing to me. Never really a thing in my house, but there are definitely people there. But like I don't go up in Belfast fearing for my life that somebody will smell the Irish in me, you know what I mean? But it just kind of depends, you know what I mean? It's like rough parts of Dublin, Yeah. There's going to be that side of it, but like I train in Gainforth on a Monday, which is off the Shankill, and like the Peace Wall's there, and like I remember Connor Campbell's up. Yeah, Connor Campbell's up there, and he was kind of like asking us about it, and I was like, it's the Peace Wall, and it's kind of was there to separate like wherever the riots were going. And he's like, oh, well, that's okay. I was like, there is peace, but somebody goes and closes it every night. He said, well, it's like it's like an actual gate that will close off the road, and like somebody is responsible for opening and closing that every day. It's 2024. I have no idea why. You know what I mean? But no, I've never had that. Where like if nobody, I can't remember ever having a sectarian thing said to me. Maybe once in a rugby match. It wasn't actually directed to me. It was one of our lads, and he's actually a Catholic fella, and then one of the guy I played with was Protestant, and like his dad marched in Orange Order, like was a very hardcore Protestant. He went and slank him. He's like, fuck off. He's like, you're gonna call him a Catholic cunt. He's like, it's gonna be me. You know what I mean? So like it's never really been a thing. It's like it's very much in the past, but there's always going to be some people. But again, sort of people where I'm like, you worry about you. We're never going to be in the same sort of page. I couldn't care less.
Yeah, man, it's so bizarre. for like, I grew up in Dublin. You know what I mean? Dublin's a very progressive city, and there's not like the religious element still exists, but like I can't imagine somebody coming down from up north and being like, I don't feel comfortable down here, except for maybe some random druggie stabbing in a lane in Dublin, but like over anything religious based or what part of a street you live on. I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because I remember distinctly, even Jacob and I, the guy that does a lot of photography, we were walking back and he was joking about, he knows nothing about the history. So he was like, oh yeah, my boy Wolfie Town. And I was like, the Wolf Town? Like, he doesn't know anything about any of it. So I was trying to tell him like a little bit of the history I knew. But even at that, I was like, yeah, I'm not really getting this sense. You know what I mean? But so I was always curious of like, do like people that live up north, does that still feel like it's there? And then, you know, I know people that have gone from the south to the north and said, yeah, if there's a couple of areas you've gone in, you might get treated differently if they hear how you speak or they know where you're from. I just haven't really seen it very strongly myself, but just more so curiosity. And then the second thing to ask, and this is more, I can't remember who asked me this, right? But they said, and this is the last thing I want to ask you, they said, how did that motherfucker squat 300 kilos with that crooked squat?
Oh man, I knew I was going to on my shoulder. Yeah, so I've explained this I don't know how many times. I wasn't even gym related. Like I think like partially just screwed my shoulder, and like it was like a GP told me. So I don't know. TJ's probably cringing in the background somewhere, but sure,
his ass, gritting his teeth.
He's been doing it the whole podcast, to be fair to him. But yeah, so like my shoulders are slanted. Like it was a mate of mine actually, and he's like I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", so like I'm like 5'8" maybe. And we were just walking about one day, and he's like, "Oh, it's like I mean, you got in a fight, who would win?" I was like, "Well, I don't really plan on fighting you." He's like, "Ah, but if we got in a fight, who would win?" And I was like, "Well, you'd probably like you're fucking punch me from the back door." I was like, "But if I got a hold of you, I wouldn't let go." He's like, "Oh, you wouldn't." That's here. So I just got him in a headlock. I was like, Jordan pulled him down, and he's like trying to get out. I was like, "See," he's like, you're stuck." And I was like, "Right, let's chill." So I like let go, and as I let go, he stood up. So my shoulder ended up like somewhere like up here, and I was just gone. So yeah, like you'll see my shoulder sitting in my head. It's the way a squat should be. Even if I'm benching, I'm kind of over the place. But yeah, that's the only thing I've tried. TJ tried fixing it, like countless physios, you know, but it's just
doesn't cause any hassle though.
No, like I remember going to the GP about it, and he was like, you know, I don't know how, you know, reliable this information is. I never really followed up on it anyway. He's like, you'll probably need surgery on it at some stage. You want to get set again? I was like, well, I think I was like 18 at the time. I was like, oh, how long will that take? Like, how long will I have to, like, my first question was like, how long will I have to stop training? I didn't really even take training seriously then. He was like, oh, at least 6 months. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Fuck it then. Yeah, so yeah. So yeah, it's just kind of what I have to work with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it speaks volumes to the fact that the body is incredibly adaptable and it can pretty much work around anything. Like you, excellent squat, excellent bench and deadlift. You know what I mean? I know you'll disagree with me on the bench, but it's a good bench. Now that we have the same bench, I have to say that.
I was so surprised. I was like, I thought he benched far more than he is. What's going on?
Give me, I make you a promise. Within my next 2 meets, I'll bench 180.
I promise you I won't.
You'll still always squat more than the rest of us, though. Let's be real. But in any case, I always looked at it. I love when you post a set because I'll use that as an example to prove people that the idea of symmetry in training is a lot of bollocks. Here's an excellent powerlifter repping out massive, massive weights that they can only aspire one day to do 1 rep of, and it caused you no bother. And I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, the people go like, oh, do you think you've got good genetics or this? I was like, mate, my arms haven't grown since I was 74. My like right shoulder's half a county away. You know what I mean? It's like you just do what you can with what you can and just keep going. You know?
Right, wrap it up then. Let's see. Next big meet you've got is Open Worlds. How many weeks out?
9 or 10.
All right, coming around quick. 10, By the time this goes live, you'll probably be about 6 or 7 weeks out.
Hungrier.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm really excited to see it that. And then if anybody listening here wants to get in touch with you, ask you a question about your crooked squat, or you know, throw shade at you for being up north and lifting in the Irish PF, whatever it might be, or if they have any questions about coaching with Max Out, where did they find you?
Yeah, Instagram mhenry94 or Max Out Powerlifting Instagram as well. There's a application form on the Max Out page, but shoot me a DM on either. And if you're slagging me off, I'll direct you to TJ so he can listen to all those complaints. But yeah, any questions, just shoot me. Shoot me. Happy to ask.
Nice one, Matthew. Thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Cheers.